Final Fantasy VI is widely regarded as one of the greatest video game narratives ever told. Shifting away from traditional medieval fantasy, it introduces a steampunk-inspired world where technology and machinery have replaced magic, which has been lost for 1,000 years since the catastrophic War of the Magi. The game opens in the snow-capped mining town of Narshe. The Gestalian Empire, an aggressive military dictatorship, sends a squad of soldiers to seize a frozen Esper, one of the legendary magical beings sealed away millenniums ago. Among them is Terra Branford, a young woman with innate magical abilities who is being controlled via an imperial slave crown. When they reach the Esper, it reacts violently to Terra's presence, vaporizing her squad and shattering her slave crown. She wakes up with total amnesia,
What is that?
but is rescued by Locke Cole, a self-proclaimed treasure hunter and member of the Returners, an underground resistance movement dedicated to stopping the Empire. Locke and Terra flee to Figaro, a kingdom technologically allied with the Empire on the surface, but secretly aiding the rebels. The charismatic King Edgar Ronnie Figaro and his twin brother Sabin, a martial artist, join their cause. As the group tries to reach the Returner hideout, they are hunted by Kefka Palazzo, the Empire's court mage. Kefka is a court clown who underwent an early, flawed Magitech infusion process that granted him magic, but left him completely psychotic, unhinged, and deeply sadistic. The Returners launch an assault on the Imperial capital, Vector, to free captured Espers being drained of their life force to power Magitech machinery. They discover that when an Esper dies, its essence crystallizes into magicite, a shard that allows humans to wield magic directly. Realizing that the remaining Espers are in grave danger, Terra, who discovers she is actually half human and half Esper, opens the sealed gate to the Esper world. The enraged Espers pour into the human realm, completely devastating the Imperial capital in a storm of magical fury. Appearing defeated, Emperor Gestal begs the Returners for a truce. He claims he wants peace and asks them to help him pacify the rampaging Espers. It is a complete trap. Once the Returners track down the Espers, Gestal and Kefka ambush them, slaughtering the creatures and harvesting their massive magicite shards. With this overwhelming power, Gestal raises the floating continent, the ancient resting place of the warring triad, the three original gods of magic. The Returners breach the floating continent to stop them, but they are too late. Gestal prepares to use the gods to rule the world as an absolute dictator. However, Kefka has moved past simple world domination. He wants absolute destruction. Kefka betrays Gestal, murders him, and pushes the statues of the warring triad out of alignment. The magical balance of the planet collapses. The world literally tears itself apart, and the main characters are scattered into a blinding white light. One year passes. The planet has been transformed into a dying, post-apocalyptic wasteland where the seas are poisoned and the plants are rotting. Kefka has ascended to godhood, ruling the world from a massive tower constructed out of debris. He randomly fires beams of destructive magical light from the sky to incinerate any town that dares to show hope. The player takes control of Cells, who wakes up from a year-long coma on a deserted island. Finding herself entirely alone and believing all her friends are dead, she falls into total despair, and even attempts suicide in a famous, emotionally heavy scene. However, she discovers a bandana belonging to Locke, giving her a vital glimmer of hope. Cells finds a raft and sets sail across the shattered world to find the others. The second half of the game is heavily open-ended and non-linear. One by one, you find your scattered companions, each dealing with their own grief, trauma, and loss. Terra has lost her will to fight and is hiding in a ruined village, acting as a protective mother to a group of orphaned children. Locke is obsessively searching for a legendary treasure capable of reviving his long-dead lover. Cyan is living in isolation, sending anonymous letters to a lonely girl to give her hope. Ultimately, they realize that even though the old world is gone, they still have a future to protect. They band together for one final, desperate assault. The heroes fly Setzer's airship directly into Kefka's tower. They fight their way through the remnants of the Magitech Empire and defeat the physical manifestations of the warring triad, cutting off the source of all magic. At the summit, they face Kefka, who has manifested as a towering, angelic yet monstrous deity. Kefka mocks the party, claiming that life is completely meaningless because everything eventually dies and is destroyed. The heroes reject his nihilism, each stepping forward to state what they have found worth living for: love, family, friendship, and rebuilding the future. In a massive, multi-tiered final battle, the returners destroy Kefka once and for all. With the god of magic dead, all magic, including Magicite and the Esper race, begins to fade permanently from the universe. Terra, whose half-Esper body begins to dissolve, uses the very last of her fatting strength to guide her friend's airship safely out of the collapsing tower. Because she chose to embrace her human side and her love for the orphaned children, her human spirit survives the purge. The game ends on a beautiful, quiet note. The airship flies across a scarred but healing planet, showing green sprouts growing from the dirt as humanity begins to rebuild a world free of magic, but full of hope. Locke Cole, smooth-talking treasure hunter, an integral member of the Returners. Locke is the one who rescues Terra at the start of the game and promises to protect her. Years prior, Locke's severe amnesia-ridden girlfriend, Rachel, was killed in an Imperial raid while trying to protect him. Consumed by survivor's guilt, Locke develops an obsessive psychological need to protect and rescue every woman he meets, namely Terra and Cells, to atone for his past failure. He keeps Rachel's body preserved in a basement, desperately seeking a way to revive her. In the world of ruin, Locke finally tracks down the legendary Phoenix Magicite. It briefly revives Rachel, but only long enough for her to tell Locke that she forgives him and wants him to move on with his life. Locke finally lets go of his grief and commits his future to Cells. Edgar Ronnie Figaro, the young, charismatic king of Figaro. Outwardly, Edgar plays the part of a flirtatious, shallow king who maintains a peaceful alliance with the Empire. In secret, he uses his massive desert kingdom and technological advancements to fund and supply the Returner resistance. Edgar carries the heavy burden of the crown, a position he won through a rigged coin toss with his twin brother, Sabin, years ago to ensure his brother could live a free life. When the world ends, Edgar disguises himself as a thief named Gayrod, an anagram of Edgar to infiltrate a gang of bandits. He uses them to gain access to his buried, malfunctioning castle, rescues his trapped engineers, and reclaims his role as a leader to help rebuild civilization.